within 48 hours, you're going to have a dream.
Welcome to the Blue Door Playbook, a podcast for the soul, featuring the work and wisdom of archetypal psychotherapist Timothy Tate. I'm your host, Putter Brown. Episode 9, Archetypes. Here is how I met you. First moment was seeing your business card. At the time, 25 years ago, seeing your business card, Timothy J. Tate, archetypal psychotherapist.
That's right.
And that was strange and scary and made me curious.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, mission accomplished. Psychotherapist, got that. Archetypal, had never even really heard that word before. I think I was 30 years old, had never even heard that word before. And tell me a little about that. What does it mean? Where does it come from?
Yeah. Well, that's a big question.
Yes.
So we're going to start with the definition from Papa Jung, his autobiography. This book, I was turned on to this book in 1977 by a colleague at the college I was teaching at in Southern California. And he said, "Have you ever heard of Carl Jung?" And I had not. Through my master's work, there was no mention of him, even though I got a master's in counseling. And so I was wondering, what the hell does Carl Jung have to say? And turned me on to this book, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, a autobiography. And I thought I would read part of that as a grounding for us. So here we go. So the concept of the archetype is derived from the repeated observation that, for instance, the myths and fairy tales of world literature contain definite motifs which crop up everywhere. We meet these same motifs in the fantasies, dreams, and delusions of individuals living today. These typical images and associations are what I call archetypal ideas. The more vivid they are, the more they will be colored by particularly strong feelings. They impress, influence, and fascinate us. A little bit more? They have their origin in the archetype, which is in itself an irrepresentable, unconscious, pre-existent form that seems to be part of the inherited structure of the psyche and can therefore manifest itself spontaneously anywhere at any time. Because of its instinctual nature, the archetype underlies the feeling-tone complexes and shares their autonomy. So that's a mouthful.
Yeah, right.
Carl's a mouthful. 32 volumes.
Wow.
But what we're hinting at here, what he's describing, is some internal compass, so to speak, in his term, the collective unconscious, that whether or not you can inherit such predispositions is a question, and I don't think that's the case. But I do know that archetypes form the structure of our capacity to appreciate the collective story of mankind and are very evocative for our psyche. And just to say a few archetypes in my mind would be love, death, birth, union, hate, maybe even such things as competition and envy, really basic human emotions. Mm-hmm. And deeper than that, instinctual powers, forces within our psyche.
Mm-hmm. That instinctual piece really touched me from his writing and your commentary on that. Mm-hmm. That we come into your office, we come in to do the work with you, and instinctually are living these archetypal forces.
Yes.
Unique to each person.
No.
Okay. Same for everyone.
The interpretation is unique, the emotion, the experience of the archetype. But that's what's fascinating. It's independent of the human's personality or experience. The archetype is loaded, hence the instinctual piece, beyond the experience of the individual's capacity to understand or define it. You know, when you're in a relationship or you're starting to have a relationship, and someone says, "I love you," there's a deep response to that, perhaps reaction, perhaps recoil, I don't know, but it's loaded. Or, "You're going to die 2 months from now." Die? And then that's so loaded with mythology and fantasies and symbolism, as he describes in his definition of it. Mm-hmm. So I think what we're talking about, Putter, and in my practice, what I'm always looking for is a deeper truth and meaning in the individual's story beyond the presenting symptoms.
And the presenting symptoms, so to use your example of "I love you," somebody would recoil at that. Someone else would melt into that, and so many different things. So we are all loaded differently in relationship to the archetypal force?
Yeah. I think so. Our personal experience, our family of origin, and all those variables that contribute to who we imagine ourselves to be are loaded with archetypal structures, archetypal forces, simply meaning that in the constellation of our inner world, which in my imagination represents the constellation of the universe, it's that deep and broad. Our inner universe is unlimited. And as we know from our understanding of the universe, there are 3 dimensions of that invisible world. We have matter, dark matter, and dark energy. So what matters is a whopping 8% of the universe, and how we get stuck on that. How can we not? We're embodied. We are sensory. We are offended. We are defensive. That matter is such a small percentage of the entire universal, I don't know, I can't say consciousness per se, but let's stick with mystery. Mm-hmm. And that's where archetypes live, is in that 95% of the invisible world. And so it's astonishing, as it would be to discover something unknown before, when an archetype experience, an archetypal experience, overcomes an individual.
And
loaded,
yeah. And when that archetypal experience overcomes an individual, is that usually the too much to bear, or like the problems that come to you? You know, the experience that people are having when this is pushing for expression.
Yeah.
Is it trouble or everything?
Oh, it's trouble.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't want to be too abstract. I want to ground this as much as possible, which is kind of tricky because I'm an abstract thinker to start with. And I'm fascinated by large ideas and stubborn when it comes to being corralled or asked to, for instance, in my personal life or practice about things that matter on an individual basis with a relationship is like, yeah. And what can we find beyond that, which is, of course, what dreams are for me as an access point to something bigger than the person's individual suffering. But yeah, the archetypal force arrests the individual psychology in a way that nothing else does. I hate you. That's really evocative. And hate, evil, those forces are archetypal.
I certainly came to your office in trouble knowing what was going on. And can you help me fix it?
Yeah.
And one thing you quickly taught me, it's kind of circling back to your 3 parts of the universe,
Yeah.
was 3 levels of reality: literal, psychological, mythical. And I had never, of course, heard that. Not only had I never heard that, but I was only living in literal reality. I had never studied psychological, had never thought about psychological space.
Yep.
I had never heard of anything mythical or read anything mythical or thought of mythical space. So there I was in trouble, looking for someone to help me fix my literal problems.
Yes.
And you brought to me psychological space and mythical space. The archetypes live in the mythical.
That's right.
Right. And what a revelation to wake up and learn that's there, you know,
Yes.
pushing.
Well, I think that's a good word, Putter, the revelation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we have an inspired moment or a revelatory moment in the container of my office, when such a moment happens, it immediately fills me with a kind of joy that my life work is meaningful. When an individual sees into something beyond their personal trouble and has that proverbial aha moment, I just stop. We don't say anything for a moment. And then I ask, are you registering what just happened? Do you know what you just saw? Can you tell me what you just experienced so we can preserve this moment or honor this moment, this inspired insight?
Mm-hmm. That happened to me at a time when the Lord of the Rings, the first Lord of the Rings movie was coming out, and made me think of those books that my brother read. But I looked at them as untouchable or uninteresting. And suddenly I read them and went after so much depth in mythical space.
Yes.
Began to learn about archetypes, pushing out and what your business card meant, archetypal psychotherapist.
Yes.
And you told me once that term came from James Hillman, or archetypal psychotherapist. Or he put those two together. Is that true?
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
He did. And his development, so to speak, if I could be so bold, of Jung's ideas into his own canon of thought, which was extensive as well. His tutelage under Jung in Switzerland, when he was forming his worldview, informed him of the depth and breadth of this mystery we call ourselves, and his use of the archetypal psychology came about in a way that I'm not remembering, but we were talking about it when I was driving my Saab, bringing him to the University of Montana to give a guest lecture that I had organized, which was a wonderful event. The auditorium was filled with 500 people, and there's Brother James on the stage doing his thing, which is often antagonistic and aggressive and archetypal, should we say. And he introduced that term as a form for this mystery of psychotherapy and how we come to realizations.
And his idea of kind of bringing the archetypes or archetypal thought into psychotherapy is, there's that word revolutionary comes.
Mm-hmm.
His genius,
Mm-hmm.
that those two things are combined. Most psychotherapy doesn't include archetypes or archetypal forces. It almost seems like it lives in the literal.
Or the emotional.
Or the emotional, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So literal and psychological.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And, that's good work is being done. My colleagues in this profession are sincere and doing what they know how to do and affecting people's lives. Absolutely. So when I give a client the task of reading a particular Grimm's fairy tale to have another angle or perspective on the experience they're having, like we talked about with the spirit in the bottle as an example of such an assignment, then the reader, the client, is starting to imagine a bigger life that has loaded content.
How often do you see those archetypal moments in your practice? People come with maybe an aha moment,
Yes.
something, or bring a dream.
Well, there has to be those moments for me to stay interested in the work. And I'd like to say a high percentage, but it's a rare phenomena. And that's what makes it so precious. And that's why I follow up with moments, with tasks. For instance, there was a client who had an insight, if not an aha, about his relationship with his oldest son and his father, kind of a two-barrel realization. Mm-hmm. And so the task is to write a letter to both the son and the father about his fresh sense of his relationship to them as a father and as a son. Talk about archetypal.
Wow.
The father and the son are archetypes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, so we'll see what he comes up with.
Yeah, yeah. And how about the entire Dreamtime story all exists in the archetypal?
Well, there's 3 levels of dreams.
Right.
So,
Yep.
We love those 3 levels.
Yeah, we do.
and we won't go into those in necessarily any depth, but the ones that matter most to me, besides, we have copper, silver, and gold were the terms I use to define the value of the dreams. So the copper, just working through the day's troubles. The silver gets my interest because it has 4 parts. Not 3, but 4. And then what really catches my attention is the gold dream, which is always concise and illuminating in its intensity, as gold is. And 2 nights ago, I had, for me, a gold dream where I was in some sort of container by myself, and the container was filled with energy, as was I. And it was just this luminous moment of seeing myself in a container, not a coffin, not a rocket ship, but some container that vibrated with energy. And I can see it clearly now, 3 days later, 2 days later, and it'll stay with me, is that image of contained energy vibrating in my, you take it from there, psyche, personality, soul.
Yeah, cauldron.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. You use the word concise.
Mm-hmm.
Those gold dreams are brief.
Yeah.
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 But you will not forget the feeling, and you won't forget the image.
Most importantly, the feeling and the image. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. That'll stay with me.
Yeah. And your image from that dream, of yourself in the container, humming. If a client brings you something of that depth, something as rare as gold, what comes next to kind of remember the image or...
Well, that's where art comes into play. I'll often ask the individual who's been blessed with such an insight to draw it, to describe it, to, in some ways, make it live beyond the reckoning, so to speak, of having such a dream in your supposed unconscious while you're allegedly asleep. A lot of provisional stuff there going on, air quotes, because I'm not clear on any of that being what we imagine it to be. The sleep, the dreaming, our identity. You should be in here for a while. Maybe you shouldn't. Back onto that image and the luminosity of that, and then the tasks and the way we represent through the creative, how to honor what we've seen about ourselves or our relationship with people who hold an archetypal relationship in our life.
Yeah. And just kind of going back to the gold dream of this week, what did it feel like?
Yeah. It felt renewing. It seemed to refresh something in me. And that something has to do with what I'm called to do. I don't waltz into my office and am all, yay. It's like, oh boy. I pace around my office a lot between sessions. I take a walk, as you know, around the block to clear my head. So when I have such a loaded image myself and anticipate the grace of someone coming into the office with a disturbing, evocative image. Basically I go, here we go. And the knock on the door happens, and the individual comes in.
What a gift that the dream could refresh you in such a difficult time.
Yeah. No, it is a gift.
Sticks with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sticks with me. And inspires.
Inspires.
Yeah.
Nice. You mentioned dreams
Yep.
as one way to access archetypal reality, or
Yep.
the archetypes.
Yep. So the distractions of modern life, which seem to be becoming more and more intense around just surviving in a free market economy, in a world that's being more and more run by authoritarian leaders, with the competition of all manner of distractions. The moment when a person realizes that there is more to their life than coping, more to their life than their inner monologue chirping all the way, all the time, which is one of the curses of having a large frontal lobe. I'm convinced of how that chatter in our brain keeps us from mining the gold of our life, the inspired image that, without being melodramatic, I've seen that awakening inspired image motivate an individual to change their life, to get that divorce, to face their financial struggles, to go and have a conversation with their father about his abuse. So the luminosity of the insight in a dream cuts through the distractions of life and allows us an opportunity to actually, achieve meaning. And when that bell rings, all bets are off. Now we have that internal compass dusted off. Now we have the gyroscope in place again.
It makes me think of, you told me one time you had James Hillman in Bozeman, and you had him in your office on your couch.
Yes, I did.
And he said to you, the difference between us is you're working with the people. You've taken this deeper than I have taken it, with the people.
I want your memory.
It's going away too, don't worry. But it
Yes.
just made me think of him and all of his genius and intellectual, his story of birthing archetypal psychotherapy, putting those two words together, those two worlds together.
Yes.
But he wrote about it.
Yes.
You,
Practiced it.
the next generation,
That's right.
practiced it for 40 years.
That's right.
And he blessed you.
That's right. That's right. No, that's a good memory, and thank you for that. That was quite the moment. I was putting into practice his theory, and I can only imagine what that must feel like to a man who's done his best to claw through the debris of modern society and find beyond that an inspiration to affect me in a way that put it into practice. That whole full circle. Yeah, that was most meaningful for him and for me.
Working with you really helped me when I would bring something, a gold dream, say, or some insight at that level, and you would bless me. That feeling stuck with me and helped me bless others.
Right.
Because I, just was so touched. And it's not something you get a lot growing up or out in that busy world. So thank you, because your blessings touched me, but it also made me conscious of blessing others.
Yes. To bless and be blessed in return comes from a Yeats poem, the Irish poet Yeats.
To bless and be blessed in return. Exactly. So there's this large number of people that come through your practice. And they're all coming with archetypal experiences. Is there some way, is there a book or like something that's how to access archetypal realms, or how to access the whole world of archetypes?
Yes.
Is there any way somebody can learn about that without getting behind the blue door?
Well, I think literature is one of the ways to access all archetypal reality. I think any really powerful novel is filled with archetypal content, whether or not the reader understands that. So the lasting power of the archetypal force we can access through novels. And as you know, that's one of the things I do. I ask people to read, besides journaling and remembering their dreams, that reading piece. And it wouldn't necessarily be about psychology. It would be perhaps a novel. And in that novel, my bet is that they'll get captivated by the storyline, and then that's what we'll talk about. Not their dot. Not that other stuff.
Yeah. I think the definition that or the words that you read from Jung to start this episode.
Yes.
Included the word literature.
It did.
Nice.
That's right. That's one of the access points. And, when the reader or a citizen or an individual is gripped by a novel and a page turner, we're in the archetypal world.
Yeah, we're in the archetypal world. I like that. We've reached the end of another session in the Blue Door Playbook, a podcast for the soul, featuring archetypal psychotherapist Timothy Tate. Thanks for listening. I'm Putter Brown. Stay tuned for the next episode, where Timothy sheds light on our shadow. The content in this podcast is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes only. If you are experiencing mental health symptoms, please contact a mental health provider in your community.